De acuerdo. Hola a todos, buenas tardes. Gracias por acompañarnos en este tercer webinar de Encuentro Creativo. Ahora, bueno, les presentaremos unas palabras del embajador Luigi de Chiara y después presentaremos al ponente. Gracias.
Soy Luigi de Chiara, embajador de Italia en México. Soy muy feliz de presentar Encuentro Creativo, una producción de la Cámara de Comercio Italiana en México con la Embajada de Italia. En México hay un potencial de talento creativo que me parece no logra salir de sus fronteras con la presentación de la oferta formativa de estas instituciones académicas en el campo de las industrias creativas italianas. Queremos ofrecer no solo la posibilidad de mejorarse de un punto de vista técnico, sino también de saber dónde van las tendencias, cómo se ha construido el éxito del Made in Italy, sobre todo en el sector del estilo de vida.
Es un evento muy importante, Encuentro Creativo, porque da la oportunidad a los estudiantes mexicanos egresados de universidades o de institutos académicos de conocer la oferta educativa que hay para cursos de posgrado en el campo del diseño, de la moda y de las artes gráficas.
Así que durante estas 2 semanas de Encuentro Creativo van a poder encontrar tips y conocer acerca de las mejores universidades y institutos italianos. Van a poder conocer a embajadores, a ponentes que están trabajando en la industria, que son también académicos de estas universidades. La finalidad es que disfruten de Italia, que conozcan Italia a través de estos webinars y seminarios y que se aventuren a vivir en Italia y vivir una experiencia llena de conocimiento, de sabiduría y de diseño y de moda. Espero que lo disfruten y muchísimas gracias.
De acuerdo. Bueno, pues muchas gracias a todos por acompañarnos esta tarde. Bienvenidos al webinar titulado Diversity and Inclusivity en colaboración con la Universidad Polimoda. Les recuerdo a todos los participantes que están entrando con el micrófono apagado, entonces les pido que por favor lo mantengan así para que puedan todos disfrutar de la sesión. También vamos a estar mandando la liga de registro para que pues todos por favor pasen asistencia y tengamos evidencia de que están accesando a este webinar. Recuerden que pues pueden obtener un certificado de participación si participan al más del 50% de las actividades de Encuentro Creativo. Bueno, sin más por el momento, doy la bienvenida a nuestro ponente. Permítanme comentarles un poco sobre Massimiliano Giornetti. Después de una licenciatura en Lengua y Literatura Española, Giornetti ha asistido al curso de diseño de moda en Polimoda, en la ciudad de Florencia, en colaboración con el London College of Fashion y el Fashion Institute of Technology de Nueva York. La carrera de Giornetti en la industria de la moda comenzó en Roma, donde colaboró con el diseñador Anton Giulio Grande para el desarrollo de las colecciones RTW y Haute Couture. En julio del 2020 se incorporó a la división masculina de Salvatore Ferragamo, convirtiéndose en director creativo en 2004. De 2017 a 2019, Giornetti colaboró en el renacimiento de la icónica marca de lujo China Shanghai Tang, redefiniendo la estética y los valores de la casa. En octubre de 2019 se incorporó Polimoda como jefe de departamento de diseño y en febrero de 2021 fue nombrado como director de dicha institución. So, please, Massimo, you can start giving us your presentation. Thank you very much for your participation and well.
Thank you very much. Bienvenidos a todos. Buenas tardes. Estoy muy feliz de poder compartir mi experiencia como director creativo y por lo tanto de compartir lo que pienso va a ser el futuro de la moda. Before, let's say, starting this conversation, I think it's very significant to talk about what is changing and happening in the future of fashion, and especially what kind of fashion education is very much needed now. Education is, in my point of view, the leverage point for changing the society, cultures, and also economies. In the time of climate, let's say, emergency, individual and systemic changes in fashion are, according to my point of view, very much needed, more than, of course, than ever. Fashion tutors, gurus have the opportunity and also the responsibility to be change makers, to change the future of fashion, to nurture the knowledge, the skills and competencies that both challenge the demanding practice of existing fashion system. Now, we need a new, independent, collaborative, respectful idea of design. And it's very much the time to restore to nature and balance the social equity. So that's the reason why I very much think that in this moment, we have the opportunity in fashion to embrace the idea of diversity and inclusivity. In a moment in which everybody is, of course, talking about diversity, sustainability, and inclusivity, fashion can really be the engineer, the new force to embrace all forms of diversity. I will like to share with you my presentation. So let's start from here. From the idea of who is and what are the new designers for tomorrow. As in the presentation has been underlined, before studying fashion in Polimoda in Firenze, I studied literature in the university. And for me, language, words are very fundamental now more than ever. So I've been analyzing the word design and the word fashion coming from the Old Latin signum and facere, which correspond to the English sign, the etymological root of the word design that means drawing, a trace, a sign, a free and liberatory gesture. The word design can be used both as a noun or as a verb. It assumes a meaning such as intention, purpose, goal, or the verb to design, create, organize, act strategically. And it's immediately evident that all those meanings are closely related to the terms ability and scope, the capacity and the talent to generate new ideas. So similar roots to the word design are found in the locution technique, which derives from the Greek techne. The meaning of the Greek term is very much related to art, to the word tecton, the carpenter. I like very much this comparison between the ability to connect and highlight the fact that the wood is a shapeless material, which is very much connected to the sense of the artist and hence technician, the possibility to give shape. And therefore, through this process, in a certain sense, art and techniques are very much referred to the sense of creating and distort an intelligent form of ideas. What is the reason why I'm talking about this sense of shaping, carving, and relating to the old Greek and the old Latin? In the world that's becoming more and more global and globalized, I think it's a very much interesting understanding who a fashion designer is and why we are so much related to the sense of inclusivity and diversity. It's the idea of art, and from one sense, the possibility to carve, to shape, but also the possibility to be agile and the dexterity. That means the ability to foresee what is going to be like happening in the future, and hence the sense of creating in fashion the form and the figure of a fashion designer like a true artist, hence a magician. I love very much the fact that in a world that now is much more related to globalization, yes, but also digitalization, the possibility for fashion designers to be able to create emotion through, of course, bringing in our daily life the possibility to create a true form of shapes, silhouette, colors, combination of materials they are shaping the sense of the fashion designer as a true magician. Art and fashion are very much and has always been very much related. But now we need to understand that this sense of creating art from the idea of shaping the sculpture and sculptures, the human body, it's also very much integrated with the necessity of the human and the modern society to bring into fashion a sense of a tribe, a subculture. So the term design, machine, technique, and art are so much related to each other that correspond to the idea that has been denied for a very long time, especially after the Renaissance, with the idea of a clear and very idea of separation between what is the world of art, the world of technology, the world of machines, that also is opening to the possibility for us as fashion designer to create a world that's made of emotion, experience, innovation, and of course, diversity and inclusivity. Why I'm underlining so much this sense of inclusivity and diversity in fashion nowadays? Because I think that in our, let's say, segment and sector, we have been like living for many years in an ivory tower. We have been like experiencing a very idea of an exclusivity related to fashion. Nowadays, thanks to, of course, globalization, fashion is becoming more and more open to other people, becoming a form of culture, for sure, but from the other side, the idea of relating and linking different cultures in becoming a new form of language. I have been always inspired by the idea of Bauhaus, a word in which, according to the theories of course, the Bauhaus school, the idea of technology, craftsmanship, inclusivity, diversity has been the meaning and the true essence of design. And I really think that 100 years after the foundation of the Bauhaus theory in Germany, nowadays we can go back to the sense of community, creating through, of course, the schools, the idea of cultivating the talent of the future. What is really fashion in my point of view? This is a very personal, let's say, definition of fashion. It's the life that comes into a dress, the most contemporary form of art, because it lives in the street and, of course, with the people. But in a social context in which the idea of homologation and repetition seems to have affected all the semantic fields of design, the only possible conceivable cure to the lack of initiatives in fashion and the creative lethargy seems to be the resolution of the theories that led the Bauhaus to become the superstar of the modern designs that we have to revive today. So the only possibility that we have in fashion nowadays is to focus on the theory that 100 years ago, the Bauhaus was bringing to the life, in which, of course, the possibility of collaborating between people includes diversity in, of course, the design, has been exploiting the modern sense of design nowadays. All the forms of creativity nowadays are an important crossroad, possibly compared to face with an analytic doubt, to sell or to dream, industry or craftsmanship, business of art. I've been always thinking that fashion is the most contemporary form of art because, of course, it's living with the people. And of course, when we are thinking about fashion, we are thinking about expressing the possibility of wearing what we are. We are nowadays thinking that fashion is the possibility to bring out your dreams, your creativity, but also the sum of your cultural aspect. So democratization on the one end and the dynamism of fast fashion against the frozen luxury system on the other are likely killing the desire, smash the dream and annoy the consumer. Art and design needs to be back to seduce, to win, to impress, to inspire the society, to magnify the most powerful tools that we have in our hands, that's the social. Fashion has evolved from the most significant aspect to become the possibility to express personality and emotion. For me, fashion is the most direct representation of the contemporary. Colors, shapes, materials, living in perfect harmony. A vivid and independent form of art that lives with the people in the modernity of the real life. I believe that exactly like a century ago for the Bauhaus school, which is fundamentals, we have to move fashion from a primary necessity into the expression of a style and a personality. Today, we have to create a collection starting from our culture, proportion, history, nature, and craftsmanship that, of course, are looking into the future. So I always believe that our culture, our past are the basis from what we start to, of course, defining what is going to be the future of fashion. I believe that, of course, we are what we wear, yes, but we are the sum of our culture. I like very much this image of one of the past shows from Gucci, in which we see the modernity that's talking about diversity, independency of thought, but from the other side, the artisanal craftsmanship, the heritage, the essence of what we are the sum of the uniqueness that's the reflection of fashion nowadays. In my point of view, modernity never goes out of style. I believe that today, the product must be able to speak by itself, to reveal its creativity in high craftsmanship, leading design to take new meaning. It must be synonymous with excellence, culture, quality, pushing uniqueness to become the new frontier of luxury. And when I'm talking about luxury, for me, luxury is not only connected with the sense of buying something that's extremely expensive, but luxury, it's the translation of a culture, the possibility to create something that's unique. Luxury, it's also the independency of thought, the possibility to get out from the diktat of the merchandising and the marketing, to becoming a black sheep, to follow, of course, the independency of the thought. After many years of standardized tastes and consumers who paid fortune for clothes with no real intrinsic value, I believe that a new generation of consumer is willing to invest in objects of solidity and high creativity. The globalization that I scare so much has actually, in my point of view, magnified all the brands with an heritage, tradition, culture, and a beautiful example of that are Chanel, Fendi, Hermes, Louis Vuitton, that of course they are leaving their strong personality, but always going into an independent vision, following their heritage, the culture, and never like following others. A few months ago, we have been launching in Polimoda a book with a very, let's say, deep meaning. The title of the book is Ardao. It's coming from the old archaic English Shakespearean definition of an essence of being independent. Why I believe that Ardao, be yourself, is so significant nowadays. In a moment in which everybody is following others, I really believe that following ourselves is the most significant meaning in fashion nowadays. I believe that we all have something to say. I believe that we have strength and also weakness. It's extremely important that you, as a future creative minds, you have the possibility to understand really who you are, the essence of your creativity, where your weaknesses are, and at the same time where your strengths are. And from your strength, you can magnify your individuality and uniqueness of your thought. I believe that Ardao is let's say, the maximum expression of the value of the modernity, the possibility, as I said before, to be a black sheep, to become like a unique thinker and following yourself and not following others. Initially, the idea of globalization was very much associated with a forced equality, to an excess of similarity, but in reality, it has created more awareness and a better information. I really believe that especially working in Polimoda and meeting every day students coming from 74 different countries in the world has really becoming the symbol of this diversity. The possibility in a digital era that seems very much anachronistic to express the individuality of your creation and bringing your culture, your creativity into a point in which it becomes the maximum expression of your evolution. I believe that to be modern nowadays means to be able to express real values and not inducted, to be linked with tradition, yes, with heritage culture, but of course to be open to novelty and technology. After many years and the idea of the vision of the ancient Greeks and Romans as becoming the idea of modernity, that fashion passes and style remains. That is why I believe so much in the idea of that fashion nowadays is embracing so much the sense of diversity and inclusivity, is bringing inside our culture subcultures, and how much is important that you really understand yourself to be able from your uniqueness, individuality, to express a thought that you can, of course, spread out into the world. I believe that this introduction has been very much necessary to better understand the generic distortion that fashion has undergone in the last years, transforming the role of designers and depleting it of its most intrinsic characteristic, drawing star that identify a decade instead of copy other trend. The impasse we are now witnessing, it's leading to the idea of collapsing the values of fashion itself, the lack of the ability to manipulate a vision and create a style that can really influence the society. Fashion must not look into fashion. It must reflect the ethical and the artistical values of the social environment, the culture network in which we rapidly move, fueling the curiosity and imagination of the contemporary consumer into the modernization and innovation that, of course, is so much naturally linked with the idea of fashion. Fashion, in my point of view, represents l'air du temps, a real mirror in the world, the real culture of the moment. Fashion is fast, agile, libertine. It reflects and displays the aesthetic imagination that is, of course, a link in the past with the future. We are, as I said before, what we were. The system, I believe that in this moment is really like in serious troubles. We need more discipline, but also we need more courage. I'm also repeating to our students that we are in need to become fashion activists, to change this scenario, because living and staying in the middle is, of course, from my perspective, impossible to get and to move and to break the mold in which fashion has been like staying for many years. The consumer nowadays is moving so fast that, of course, it's becoming more and more difficult to stay in the middle. We need to move into extremes. We need to be black sheep. We need to work into excesses, looking for everything that's new, different, unique, and exceptional. I believe that beautiful examples of terrific success nowadays are the capsule collection between designers, Supreme and Louis Vuitton, Gucci and Balenciaga, that of course are opening to new form of diversity and inclusivity in fashion, breaking, of course, the daily routine that the consumer is much and so much in need. I think it's so much after this, let's say, introduction, important to talk about the necessity to make the ego emerge from the unconsciousness, a process that naturally is bringing to this idea of not control. Studying fashion for me nowadays means the possibility to take value about exclusivity and uniqueness, a relationship very much subtle about art, history, craft, culture, sociology, anthropology, and also politics. Why I'm interested in those aspects? Because I think that fashion has very strong weapons in this moment. We are under every spotlight. We are, of course, in fashion. Everybody is attracted by fashion. So talking about communication, we have this potential to, of course, our ideas, vision, aesthetic culture, but also values to send out to other people messages of positivity, thinking about how much we can influence the future of the younger generation. But of course, to talk about that, we need to link our history, our past, into, of course, what is going to be the future. So studying fashion today means the possibility to have a unique experience, creating excellence, supporting creativity, but also preparing for innovation. The idea of a continuously evolving business, it's of course the possibility to mix the technical knowledge, a culture, the ability that only, of course, creative minds has to forecast, and at the same time, the agility to move, to redefine the magician symbolizing the artist of the old time. We are true magician because we bring to people emotion, we revive the present, and we inspire people. This is, in my point of view, what is so beautiful about fashion. It's extremely important in a moment in which everybody is controlling so much emotions, in a moment in which we are living, of course, connected to devices and living this global era, but also technological era, the possibility to revive the sense of the uniqueness of fashion, revive and also to magnify this idea that fashion is living with the people. It's so much connected with the sense of discovering a body. So embraces the senses to forget the safe side of our creativity, for me, is becoming really a mantra. Is becoming the possibility to liaise with a Gen Z that, of course, has no historical memory, but can create a dialogue between images. Fashion does not live only of images. Fashion lives of a body, lives with a personality. We need to help to explore the body in a journey towards senses. We have to rediscover volume, to use our hands to cut, to tear, to damage, to paint, to exercise your creativity, because of course, we should not be afraid about the possibility to get lost, about the possibility to create mistakes, to find the uniqueness of yourself. I really believe that the last years of fashion has been very much about controlling creativity, about really having some blocks into the creative minds. Everything has been controlled by merchandising and of course by marketing, creating targets, persona for every product that we create. But we see how much the consumer is becoming more and more fluid. We are breaking this sense of a target persona that's close into 30, 20, 40, 50. Everybody is embracing the sense of the desire, the sense of creating something that's of course new and bringing emotion to the final consumers. I like very much this moment of fashion. I think that a pandemic, even though I don't want to talk about COVID and how much has been influencing us, as creating the possibility for designers and creative minds to have a white canvas, a white page. We can redesign the fashion for the future through, of course, our fears. And I love this image from an old Alexander McQueen collection. We can really express ourselves. We do not have to show always ourselves as strong and without fears. We need to redefine and rediscover senses. We need the possibility to create, of course, another beauty. I believe that beauty is in everything, is in harmony as well as in friction. I think that the sense of aesthetic lies between, of course, the panache, the balance between what is beautiful and what, of course, is not beautiful. What is beautiful for me and what is beautiful for you. Finding the sense of friction is, and has always been important to read the past, but also to connect with the future. I think that the aim is to better understand the evolution of the society through, of course, an aesthetic journey made of progress, but also mistakes. Understanding that in fashion, there's not only idea of beauty. And finally, we have seen in the last years, the sense of another beauty entering on the catwalk, diversity, different colors of skin, imperfection as becoming the new frontier of fashion. We must, at the same time, be able to anticipate the taste of the new generations and capture their changes. This is the role of the designer of the future, a true magician, tempting, inspiring, creating a sense of a new world in which we embrace all forms of diversity and inclusivity. I think it's important not just to create a collection, but to be able to define a style that identify a social tribe and subculture. We must create a collective imaginary that unites words and cultures, often made by dissonance and not only by assonance, created by contrasting elements that, of course, are leading to a new language in fashion. Another beauty is my personal idea about pushing creativity towards a less secure side of your imagination, embracing different cultures, embracing different point of view and aesthetic. Discovering a new form of beauty is, in my point of view, the only possibility that we have to connect our culture, our heritage from the past into the future. And we have to understand that our culture and aesthetic heritage is a strength that can generate a new language. Contamination, even though in a pandemic era, is of course my vision of the future aesthetic in fashion. As a century ago, I believe that contamination between various, let's say, cultures and disciplines can become the best idea to face a continuous growing and evolving sector as fashion. Being a designer nowadays no longer means the possibility to draw a collection, but understanding consumer, feeding them with strong creativity, but also preventing his desires. Designers must be prepared, understanding the sense of functionality for sure, but also understanding how society is changing and how anthropology is influencing the designer of the future. You have to be able to manipulate experiences, fabrics, transforming every element into, of course, the present of fashion. I think that the role of the Modern Fashion Institute is to train, to teach you a method, yes, a taste, of course, but also the possibility to never judge people, to embrace every form of diversity, and also teaching that there is not only one idea of beauty or ugliness, there are no products that cannot be sold, that there is not only one shade of consumer, but everything can be transformed and become a true business. The judgment will be the final consumer. The only judgment can be in the hands of the final consumer, not of course yours. I think that this idea of this presentation has been very much useful from my perspective to really understand where fashion can be moved in the future, where of course we, with our capacity to foresee the trends and how the society is going to be like changing and evolving in the future, we can embrace every form of diversity, every form of inclusivity. It's not only sustainability, the message of the future, but I think that the human sustainability is, in my point of view, the true sense of being sustainable designer nowadays. I will be very much pleased if you have any comments to what I've been presenting you tonight. And I will be very much pleased to share with you my experience, my vision, and of course, my intuition about the future in fashion. I think it's very important, the dialogue. I always say to my students that I consider Polimoda to be the school, the skole, coming from the old Greek, the place in which we embrace every form of art, every possibility of embrace and see the future values, every aesthetic point of view, but also the place in which we have a dialogue between professors and of course students. So I will be very much pleased if nowadays, tonight, we have the possibility, of course, to share visions, ideas, to really create the designer of the future.
Massimiliano, bravissimo. It was incredible. The presentation really touched on some important points, and I think your testimony it's really of worth for everyone who is joining this conversation. Let me switch to Spanish to encourage them to ask some questions.
Yes.
Ok, chicos, pues así concluyó la presentación de Massimiliano. Yo creo que es uno de las personas más importantes en la industria de la moda a nivel global, como lo comentó Claudia al principio. Él ha trabajado con marcas importantísimas y fue director creativo de Salvatore Ferragamo. Está ahorita al frente de una de las universidades de moda más importantes del mundo. Entonces creo que es el momento de hacer preguntas, porque es una oportunidad irrepetible para todos aquellos que estén interesados en la moda. So Massimiliano, I wanted to
No
ask...
sea tímidos.
Yeah, don't be shy, guys.
Don't be shy, guys.
We have a couple of questions, but I would like to start, we're obviously living, the peak of diversity and inclusivity in the fashion world. I feel like, or it's a current topic right now. It's a topic of conversation.
It's a topic of conversation, Arturo, because I really believe that we designers, creative directors, we have been monsters for many years, putting only one shade of, let's say, aesthetic and beauty. That's the reason why I was pushing so much in my presentation into this idea of a different beauty that was in my presentation. Because I really believe that there's not really one idea of beauty. Beauty can stay, it can lie everywhere. And diversity in fashion has never been treated and never been so popular like nowadays. I think it's beautiful that now we have the possibility to break the mold, to change really what people are conceiving about fashion. And that is why during my presentation, I've been pushing so much this idea of being and becoming a fashion activist. That means the possibility to take a position, the possibility to not stay in the middle. I've been saying that for many times, that it's impossible to stay in the middle. It's not possible to win in the middle. The only possibility to win nowadays in fashion is to take a position, to take a risk. And we have this possibility now. We really have the possibility to change what is and has been fashion in the last years.
We have a couple more of questions, but first my partner, Claudia, is going to give a message.
Okay, well, thank you, Massimiliano. It was really interesting what you offered us today. I'm going to switch to Spanish. Muchas gracias a todos por acompañarnos a esta sesión. Realmente esperamos que la hayan disfrutado y bueno, que sigan haciendo sus preguntas en el chat. Me gustaría hacer esta pequeña pausa para anunciarles una pequeña dinámica que tenemos. Es una rifa de un perfume Zegna para hombre. Nosotros, bueno, vamos a anunciar ahorita la dinámica por el chat, entonces ahí van a poder entrar a un formulario de Google y, bueno, responder a 3 preguntas y nosotros anunciaremos al ganador en unos minutos. La primera persona que haya respondido las 3 preguntas correctamente será nuestro ganador y lo anunciaremos al final de este webinar. Mucha suerte a todos y, bueno, ahora regresamos con Arturo y Massimiliano para las preguntas. Gracias.
Claudia, can I take part in this competition? No.
Unfortunately, no. It's only for Mexico.
Okay.
But for the next session, maybe.
Okay. Not lucky today.
Thank you so much. So, finishing my question, what do you think was the trigger or what started this conversation about inclusivity and inclusion and diversity in fashion right now?
Arturo, I've been like starting the conversation, starting from something that for me is a very important words, underlining and analyzing the meaning of words, analyzing what does it mean to be a designer and what does it mean fashion. And these the elements I'll be bringing on the table are the demonstration that we as designers and creative minds in general, we have this ability to generate emotions, this ability to be flexible and agile, faster, but also coming from the old Latin, this sense of art and magician. We are bringing emotions. What for me is nowadays so essential in words becoming more and more global. I said it before, that globalization doesn't really mean necessarily the possibility to, let's say, conceal and hide a single shade. It's the opposite. Globalization has bring fashion into the possibility to exploit the sense of diversity and inclusivity, to really express who you are through what, of course, you wear. The possibility to express a style and a sense, of course, of a personality. So what is, in my perspective, as a creative director, so interesting about fashion nowadays, is that for many years, fashion has been a diktat of the designer. It was the designer that was saying to the people what they had to wear, which was the sense of aesthetic. If you only think about the beginning, the late 90s and the beginning of the 20s, how much the aesthetic was dominated by the super top models, Cindy Crawford, Claudia Schiffer, Naomi Campbell, and that aesthetic of super beautiful women. I was discussing a few weeks ago with a very close friend of mine, a fashion journalist, about how much we have been designing only for super skinny and super tall women, not considering that 90% of the final consumers in fashion are not 36 or 38. And now we have finally the possibility to bring on the stage, to bring on the podium a different aesthetic, expressing through, of course, the sense of democratization of fashion and also globalization of fashion, the sense that everybody can enjoy fashion. Fashion is not only for a 36 and a 38. Fashion is not only connected with the sense of luxury and exclusivity. I've been talking about uniqueness and independency, but never talking about exclusivity. I've been embracing and pushing the sense of fashion into becoming a black sheep. That means to go against homologation, to not be a followers of others, but becoming a followers of yourself. That's the reason why I like this title that we gave to the Polimoda book, Art Thou, because that becomes an expression of yourself and not following the aesthetic that the others are imposing. I believe that in fashion, as creative director, we still have so many steps to achieve. We are still considering fashion as women's wear or menswear. I want to buy. I don't care if this is a menswear or women's wear. I want to buy a jumper. I want to buy a coat. It's only sizing. It's not gender. So that's the reason why I believe it's so important to kill this classification and clusterization of the consumer in a graphic target of age or in a gender. Because today I give you an experience. I'm today in Vilnius, in Lithuania, because two of our students graduating in Polimoda are participating to a very interesting international contest, injection, and they are in the final. So I'm here to support our designers and our students. I was in a store and I was very much interested in a coat. And the assistant said, this is the women's collection. I don't care anymore. For me, it's a coat. I like the idea of having a coat that's been like designed, created, shaped. It's creativity. It's not a gender connected with the gender. That's the reason why I believe that now we really have the possibility, and also this pandemic, Arturo, is giving us the chance and the possibility, I don't want to say to restart from zero, but to have a beautiful white page, a beautiful white canvas from which we can restart designing the future of fashion that's made of shades, diversity, inclusivity, no more gender, and thinking about an aesthetic that's becoming an expression of what we are. I don't want to be judged by what I am wearing. I want to be judged from who I am. Because I think that if I'm wearing a women's wear coat, I cannot be related to be gay necessarily. I'm just like expressing myself. And I'm very much fascinating working in Polimoda and talking and liaising every day with my students when I see them wearing pearls necklace or wearing like fancy earrings. I do not want to clusterize them into a category. It's just like a form of expression. That is why I believe that, of course, fashion is a culture. And from this culture, from the past, in which, of course, analyzing a lot of the beautiful masterpieces, artworks that we have, in which men and women in the past were dressing in the same way, especially,
yeah, totally.
of course, in Asia. Men were wearing jewels, were wearing rings, necklace, pearls, and that was not like affecting their masculinity.
It was part of the culture.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we have a ton of questions. I'll try to pick and choose, the best, because we have a ton of questions, because, everyone is aware that you're an expert on the topic. But the first one is from Natalia Milan. And I know you mentioned you didn't want to speak a lot about the pandemic, but she asked, do you think the pandemic has had an effect on over how people choose to express their individuality?
I definitely think so. I definitely think so. And the reason why I think that has been becoming an accelerator of the possibility to better express ourselves is that we have been living a very much frenetic life. And pandemic, at a certain sense, has been blocking us, giving us the possibility to rediscover also ourselves, to re-become in connection with ourselves, to what we like and what we don't like. I said before, as also designers or creative minds, it's always important to understand who you are, where stays your talents and also your, let's say, weakness. It's the same for everybody. The pandemic has been accelerating these extremely high needs and demands for understanding who we really are, what is very much needed. We have suddenly opened our, let's say, wardrobes and finding that we have so many dresses that we don't care. Sometimes I'm talking with our students, they buy 8 t-shirts for maybe $10 and they don't care about that. So sometimes I say, why you buy 8 t-shirts for $10 and you don't buy one that's it's representing you? Because when you buy something that's just so cheap, you also give to this cheapness a very low meaning. Means that you don't care. You forget that I think that you forget that.
Someone turned its microphone.
No problem. I think that you forget that in your hotel room. It's never happening with something that you care. It's never happening with something that you like. So it's becoming essential and important, the possibility to be much more involved in who you really are. So pandemic has been accelerating the possibility to rediscover ourselves, to become a little more reconnected with the people that we love, to be much more interested in being less generic and very much more specific, and hence to go more in depth in what and who we are.
Regarding diversity, Marjane Vargas asks, well, she says, it was very interesting. She thanks you for the presentation. And she asks, so diversity inside the creation of art and fashion is relating to create with the collaboration of a diverse group of people. But about the content of the final product, how would you say that a product is diverse or not, if it's just, an object?
I think that it's a very interesting and a very clever question, actually. It's something that I always like face with my students in Polimoda. It's also sometimes the question that I'm, let's say, dealing with my merchandisers or my marketing directors. I think that everything at the end of the day, it's a product. We don't have to be scared about that in a fashion. Creativity is about creating products. At the end of the day, when we say this is commercial, what is wrong about being commercial? I think about the concept, I design the concept, I develop the concept, I put the concept in the showroom. Through, of course, the buyers, this concept goes into a store. And what is that? It's a product. So at the end of the day, everything that we design, everything that we conceive, everything that we invent, it's becoming commercial because it's, of course, destined to a trade between people. So I think that this is, of course, the most important, let's say, element rules in fashion, that we are creating a form of arts, but also we are creating form of arts that are connecting humans. And the sense of humanity and the humans, for me, has always been at the center of my creative process. Now, going back to diversity and inclusivity, in a moment in which everybody has been so much ego referred in fashion, very much individual, I think that sustainability is also, as I said at the end of this presentation, is connected with the human side. What is sustainable? It's sustainable to support the young talents. It's sustainable to collaborate together. It's sustainable to break the mold. It's sustainable to bring, of course, and becoming relevant, the sense of diversity and inclusivity. There are no other sectors in arts in which diversity and inclusivity is so much connected with the sense of design. And that's the reason why I've been like starting this presentation from the beginning, the meaning of fashion and the meaning of design, and understanding how much we are involved in this process of diversity, of creating something that's different, and how much our inner diversity, because we are different from the others. I always say that everybody has a talent. No, I've been repeating it many times, but we as designer and creative minds, we have this uniqueness of and this independency of thought, the possibility to foresee what is going to be like happening in 18 months. When I start designing a collection, I start 18 months before launching the collection in the store. It is a long window of time that's, let's say, dividing us from the final consumer. It's an opportunity of dialogue that we can create, of course, with the final consumer, in which we are sending out messages and values. And nowadays, again, fashion is no more, in my point of view, the idea of just like a glamour on a catwalk. It's no more the glamour of a beautiful gown on a red carpet. It's a sum of values, because also, as I said in the presentation, we have ethical and social responsibilities. It's not only aesthetical, but at the beginning of the presentation, I said we have an ethical responsibility.
Yeah, that's totally a valid point, you know, and something worth mentioning. So, you know, throughout the Encuentro Creativo, we have had conversations with people from the architecture fields, from people from fashion, from interiorism, you know, all kinds of creative fields.
It's a
So,
same word, by the way, because we have this sense of understanding the society that's surrounding us, because as a fashion designer, we are creating an architecture for the body, but it's the same spirit. The human is still the center of our creativity. We create for humans, if it's a ready-to-wear, if it's an apartment, if it's a car, but it's always destined to a human.
yeah, that's, oh my God, you have the best conclusions. But what I was trying to say is that then all the people who are joining this conversation are really interested in fashion, you know, because they could choose from which team they could learn the webinar. So everyone is going crazy with the questions. I think you have answered many of them within the answers of other questions. But for example, Valentina asks, what's the best advice that you could give to an aspiring creative director?
I mean, there's not only one advice that I can give you as a to achieve the position of a creative director. Is something that's coming with time, of course, and with experience. The only advice that I can give you is that you have to understand that a creative director is not only designing a collection, is orchestrating and liaising daily with people. So you have this, you need to have this talent of empathy, this ability to create a team, create an harmony, and of course, creating a value for the brand. The creative director of a brand is not only designing a collection, is overseeing merchandising, communication, strategy, of course, of developing new and possible actions in the market. So my point of view about how to be, let's say, a good creative director is about taking risks, about the possibility always to be brave and bold, to bring on the table new ideas, because fashion is not about homologation and repetitions. We have already too many people following others, but we need to create coherency and consistency. I think that the target and the, let's say, the goal is not to accomplish everybody, but to have the possibility to be authentically in connection with your target and your consumer. That is what is making the success of a brand. Before I was showing in the slide some images of Alexander McQueen, images of Balenciaga, images of Gucci. You recognize the style because it's uniquely itself. Alessandro Michele at Gucci is not pretending to be somebody else. He's following his principles, values, aesthetic. You may be like the values of the brand or not. But as I said before, it's not in the middle. You are taking positions, you're taking risk, you're going black or white. And this is honestly what people are asking us, the possibility to take a position, to give an answer. In my point of view, Arturo, in our work, especially as a creative director, there's never an answer like, I don't know, maybe. You always have to give a very clear and a very, let's say, precise answer. You have to make selection. You have to be able to edit, to cut what is not necessary, and only to keep what is fundamental. Because this is one of the most interesting and one of the strongest, let's say, principle, in my point of view, to be able to become a good creative director, to be able to edit, to cut what is not necessary and what in a certain sense is polluting your vision and your aesthetic, and always magnify the, let's say, the values of the brand.
On that same note that you mentioned, you know, how Balenciaga and Alexander McQueen have very distinctive aesthetics. Deyanira Delgado asked, how can you create fashion with a sense of individuality if everything has already been done, she says?
It's true that everything has been done in a certain sense, because when we are thinking about, for example, menswear, no, the evolution of menswear has been very small in 100 years. So we are still wearing pants. We are still wearing, well, actually tomorrow night I'm going to be like wearing a long skirt for this event, but that's only for sometimes a few people. As I said before, I like to be a black sheep. But talking about the let's say the menswear, the evolution has been extremely small. We still wear a jacket, we still wear pants, we still wear shirt, but it's how volumes, materials, construction, accessories that have been like changing so much and redefining the aesthetic. So it's true that a lot has been done, but the biggest mistakes of the last, let's say, 10, 15 years is that everything was starting from an idea of copying. From the vintage, I do a new, let's say, version, but this is just a replica of an idea. I always invite my creative minds to start from an independency of, let's say, thought, not to start from fashion to design fashion, to start to be inspired by everything that's surrounding us, mainly sociology and anthropology and politics connected with the humans. From that, I develop ideas, I develop words that for me are becoming the semantic fields. And from the semantic fields, I open to images, I create boards. And from the boards, I like to work on mannequins. Once I remember I had a very nice conversation with Mr. Karl Lagerfeld in Madrid when we have been awarded by Elle. And Karl said, how do you develop a collection? I said, I develop a collection after I found the sensation, the feeling, the mood of the season working on mannequins. No, that's very old, like old couturiers. It depends what you're doing. The possibility to create volumes is only coming from working on 3D. Because when I design, even though I design on the iPad, computer, of a piece of paper, it's flat, but the body has shapes, has a front, has a back, but also even more interesting, a side. And I need to create volume. That's the reason why a lot has been about homologation in fashion, because the frenetical rhythm of fashion, sometimes schizophrenical. I've been designing 11 collections in 12 months. And that is not like opening to innovation. It's killing, closing your creativity. And that is why in our presentation, I've been underlining the importance to lose yourself, to leave your comfort zone, to make mistakes, because there's not only one aesthetic. The aesthetic is also made of, unbalance, contrasting element. And this is very much interesting. The possibility also for you yourself, your mind, to digest ideas. If you wanted to create something new, you always have to go into like a new territory. I think about Miuccia Prada and how much the ugly aesthetic of Miuccia Prada that's going against the idea of, let's say, conventional beauty. Of course, the aesthetic of Miuccia is very different from the aesthetic of Valentino, made of like pretty and beautiful colors, a pretty and beautiful silhouette. It's made of ugly shapes and ugly silhouette, but that takes time to be developed. And it takes also the possibility to, as I said before, take a risk, going into a different, let's say, journey and a different sector.
You come up with the most incredible ideas, because after you say them, it's like obvious, but one never thinks like that. So thank you so much for the comments. I guess to close, we have one final question. I know you've been to Mexico, right?
Yeah, many times. I'm very much addicted by the architecture in Mexico. Of course, I'm very much fascinated by Barragan. Aragonés has been very much influencing my aesthetic, and never going to Mexico to look for, let's say, inspiration, but always been very much absorbing and hence after inspired by your culture, your architecture, your food. I remember incredible dinners in Mexico cities, exploring outside Mexico City and visiting Frida Kahlo house and Frida and Rivera house outside Mexico City. So yes, I'm very much in love with Mexico.
So on that note, Celeste Orduña asked you know, how can one implement inclusivity in a country like Mexico, you know, so diverse, part of Latin America, but still yet so close to the United States and with a lot of, you know, prejudice and stereotypes and stuff like that.
I believe what you are saying, it's very much the truth and the reality, but has been underlining very many times in this presentation, and also why we have been landing into diversity and inclusivity only at the end of this presentation, is because I wanted at the beginning to say and to talk about who a designer, a creative mind is a magician, somebody with the ability to move and create emotions. Today I was in the street of Vilnius wearing a super, let's say, evident purple coat, and everybody was looking at me, probably targeting me into a category, you know, like gay and of course designer. I don't care about that. I need to express myself. So if today in this in the grayness of Vilnius, wearing a total black outfit, I wanted to, let's say, enlighten myself, my soul, my spirit with a purple coat, I need to do that because this is, again, the demonstration that we have to follow ourselves, not to follow others. And also, I say, in a more, it's not coming the word in English, but also in more conservative countries, sometimes influenced by other cultures, we need to be a niche. We need to be the black sheep. Niche is fundamental because I said before, homologation is flattering everything. People are following others, but we need also to stimulate the creativity of others. We need to be fashion activists, and also being under the spotlight means the possibility to have the privilege to have, let's say, a podium in which we can send out messages of positivity that, of course, inclusivity and diversity are embracing in fashion.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
A pleasure, very much a pleasure. I think it's really important that creativity in this moment, it's bringing out messages of not only provocation, but values, cultures, linking, as I said before, the past with, of course, the future, and also demonstrating that we are what we were, but what we were now, it's also coming from our heritage and our past.
Sure, thank you. Really, thank you.
Thank you very much. Gracias.
Well, we're about to close. Let me switch to Spanish to give them, you know, the message. Chicos, esto es lo increíble de participar en Encuentro Creativo. Podemos tener diálogos uno a uno con personajes tan importantes en la moda como lo es Massimiliano, que no solamente nos está hablando desde su punto de vista, sino de sus experiencias en la industria de la moda, trabajando y colaborando y compartiendo con personajes como Karl Lagerfeld. Entonces, digo, todos los ponentes que tenemos tienen una trayectoria impresionante, entonces por eso no deben de perderse Encuentro Creativo. Massimiliano, I will ask you to, if you can, please stop sharing screen because we're about to share a video.
Sure.
Just before saying who won the Seña fragrance. Claudia, are you there?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Massimiliano. It was really interesting.
Pleasure.
I'm going to switch to Spanish. Bueno, ya tenemos al ganador de la rifa. Es Mariana Colores. Muchas felicidades. Nosotras nos pondremos en contacto contigo para, pues, comentarte el método de entrega del premio y todo esto. Y bueno, también incentivamos que sigan participando a siguientes rifas, ya que bueno, la próxima semana todavía tendremos varios eventos, entonces bueno, estén al pendiente porque habrá más rifas.
Perfect. Well, let me share the screen just to give a shout out to our sponsors.
Ok, perfecto. Pues bueno, les recordamos que Encuentro Creativo es un proyecto de la Cámara de Comercio Italiana en México en colaboración con la Embajada de Italia en México. También agradecemos a nuestros patrocinadores, Fénix, patrocinador de esta primera edición de Encuentro Creativo, Seña, Yamamay, Scavolini, Alfa Parf, Ferrero, Amoretti Brothers, Vialetti, Campari, Ferrari México, San Pellegrino, Capricho, Secretos del Vino, Riedel y Grupo Berlingo. Les recordamos también a todos los participantes que nos han escrito y que han tenido problemas con las ligas, que bueno, en caso de que no llegue a su correo electrónico, pueden escribirnos a nuestro correo encuentro.creativo@camaraitaliana.com.mx. También ya lo pusimos en el chat para que ustedes puedan comunicarse con nosotros en caso de que experimenten problemas con las ligas. Y bueno, también les recordamos que todas las sesiones pasadas las hemos subido al sitio web y también al canal de YouTube de la Cámara de Comercio Italiana en México. Entonces, por si se perdieron una sesión, puedan revivirlas o en caso de que, bueno, no les haya llegado la liga, igual pueden ver la grabación. Les recordamos que, bueno, esta es la penúltima sesión del día de hoy, todavía tendremos una más a las 3:30, pero bueno, toda la próxima semana seguiremos llevando actividades en el marco de la primera edición de Encuentro Creativo, así que pues esperamos que nos puedan acompañar y que estén disfrutando tanto como nosotros estas sesiones.
Massimiliano, so the meeting, the webinar will be recorded and it will be available for in our webpage and in our YouTube channel. And I think this material is, very useful for those who are interested in fashion design, in diversity, and in pursuing a career in the fashion world. So thank you very much for everything you shared.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Well, that's it. Ciao.
Ciao.